And welcome back to Just Your Average Great Ner-D-Bate. Yeah, I'm the judge this time, so both of these two fuckheads actually shut up.
Well, we can't shut up.
Shut up!
Have a debate.
I'm gonna fucking slap you in the face.
He beat me to it. Just saying.
Like a redheaded stepchild? I know, it's just hysterical. Anyways, so Chad didn't shut up on the last one. You can go check that one out. Also, before anything else happens, it's fine. What is it? All Four Gamers. Go check out their information. It's in the link down below. They also did a Ner-D-Bate on the last one that we did, which was the Marvel Universe. No, DC Universe, excuse me.
Should it be an extended universe? It should just be solo films.
Yeah, they were slightly better because Chad wasn't there. Screaming over me.
What's going on, Chris?
I don't know what anything's going on. Who are you? What's this place?
Real invested.
What? How'd I get here? Anyways.
But the rules are simple. We're going to have our opening statements, our rebuttal, and our closing statements.
The rules are simple.
Questions done by the judge.
All that just got cut.
You're an asshole.
Chad's a little fucking poo baby.
Meatball.
Yeah, what he said. I don't know. We're working it out. Don't worry about it. Anyways, so who am I gonna start with for this one?
Go ahead. Start with Chad.
Fine.
Let Chad go first.
Are you
Want me to
sure?
go
Yeah,
first?
go ahead.
Alright, cool. You got a minute.
Alright, so did we explain what this is?
No, that's why you both have an opening statement.
No, like what we're actually
Statement.
debating. Today we're debating who the next MCU villain should be. You should have announced that.
Okay, you have 15 seconds left.
So I picked Scarlet Witch. She's already been adapted to film. They already have her backstory. In Endgame, they actually showed how strong she is and that she could probably take out Thanos if she didn't get knocked out of the way.
Thanos.
Keep
going.
You might want to know how to say his name at this point, Dad.
Are we not supposed to interrupt?
Shut up. You got 30 seconds left. Keep going.
We're supposed to have like 2 minutes.
I don't care. Keep going. Concise. You can't do it in 30 seconds.
You guys are awful. Anyway,
I'm the judge.
I feel like she would be a good villain just for the fact that she's basically all alone now after Endgame. She doesn't have Vision. Captain America's out. Tony Stark's out. Where's she going to go? So she's going to be feeling all alone, just like in the comics. So, also in the comics, there was a character named Agatha Harkins that pretty much was like a spirit that came to her and like trained her how to use her chaos magic.
It was not a spirit.
She was, I don't know what the hell it's called. I can't think of it right now.
5 seconds.
I should have more. 'Cause you guys
5 seconds.
You guys are the worst. Threw me off my rant.
Alright, so that's been Chad.
No, fuck this.
He also has a minute now.
All right.
You
So
guys are
basically,
assholes.
for my go, I chose. I don't know how to say his name precisely, but it's Kleben,
Focus.
Kly''Bn, the God of Skrulls, and as an extension, Skrulls as the next big MCU villain. I don't think going with one singular person to focus it on is the smart choice after doing Thanos for so long. It was way too long to build up and all that, and we finally got what we wanted. Why start the whole process over again? Jump into Skrulls, do Secret Wars, make the backstory of the God of Skrulls tie into the group of Skrulls trying to invade Earth. There are different ways you can do it, make it work. I just think that's way better than starting with one character as the focus.
And you now have 10 minutes to process your information for me, because you're a sexy boy.
Can you not interrupt me this time?
Keep going. You got it, sweet cheeks.
Alright.
To suck.
So to go along with what he was saying, yes, we don't want to have a main villain to have to be built up along 20 movies. We already have a character here that they've shown the emotional damage she's going through. So pretty much, she becomes lonely and being judged by the humans still after what happened in Ultron. They still are weary of her powers and everything, so she kind of goes into hiding. Then all of a sudden, what's it called when like a witch, like, whatever, the witch's spirit goes and visits her and teaches her how to use her chaos magic, which is pretty much what she uses with all the stuff. And by doing that, she manipulates Wanda's mind into becoming like very deranged and everything. So then she is taught how to bring somebody back to life. So using the chaos magic, she brings Vision back. But Vision isn't who he used to be. He's not as like He doesn't have the Soul Stone, so he's not as conscious. He's kind of just like the robot that Ultron meant for him to be.
White Vision.
White Vision?
Yeah, from the comics after
Yeah.
he's brought back.
Yeah. So after that, she decides she takes out the spirit of Agatha. By doing that, she gains her power. And then you could have her, from her loneliness, create children, knowing that she'll never be able to have children with Vision. So after all this stuff is happening, she starts using a lot of her powers to manipulate reality into like serving her. And the Avengers and Vision become nervous with this, and they go to confront her. And during this, she has a mental breakdown, and creates a reality where the Skrulls end up invading the Earth, coming down, and in the heat of the battle, Hawkeye, Scott Lang, and Vision are all killed. That happens in the comics. Like in the comics, it's Kree that come down, but the Skrulls were already introduced, and the Kree was on that show, whatever it's called, Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., and nobody remembers them. So with all this, after Vision dies, she totally freaks out because the children end up dying in the battle, you could think. So she all of a sudden, she says, like, I forget what she says in the comics, but she basically creates a reality where it brings back her brother. They're actually mutants now because she doesn't want to be the only one with crazy powers like that, so she won't feel alone. So they actually are going to be mutants. She brings back Quicksilver. She brings back her long-lost father, who ends up being Magneto. And by doing this, she combines some of the multiverses and puts them into their reality. So now there's mutants from the multiverse and heroes from there, all in that. So with this, Doctor Strange, after getting the Time Stone back, is the only person that can actually like know what happened with all his magic. He's the only one that can kind of, doesn't even need the Time Stone. He's the only one that can kind of keep up with her magic. So by doing that, he's the only one that knows actually what happened in the past universe. So he has to gather up all the Avengers to try to show them how their lives right now are different than what it should have been, and how she basically killed all the people. Hawkeye's alive again, Scott Lang's alive again, and he has to convince all of them, and then he has to gather the heroes of the mutants that are in this world. Not fully the X-Men yet, but with all that will come. And then that's how they'll start the final battle against Wanda.
Anything else you got?
No, that's my brief summary.
All right. And on to you, Mike.
Okay, hold on.
I'll give you 8 minutes. No. You
Should
said
I
you
go
were.
over our powers?
No, you said you were done.
I'll go
Sorry,
over it.
I forgot it.
All right.
You got 8 minutes.
So, like I said, mine is Klaben, or however it's pronounced, the God of Skrulls, but the Skrulls as an extension. And I see the Secret Invasion storyline being perfect. Earth is vulnerable after what's happened. A lot of the universe is, just like how it was set up in Secret Invasion. It doesn't have to be the entire Skrull race. It could be a certain group of radical Skrulls descended from Klaben, because I can get into that a little bit. But a little backstory on this character that could lead into the whole radical group that worships him or is descendants of him. During the Skrull Civil War, there were 3 types of Skrulls: the Deviants, the Eternals, and basically genetic mutant race, so mutants. The Deviants killed off the other 2 races, and Klaben was the last of the Eternals, and he somehow convinced the Deviants to spare him, because if they killed him, they were in essence killing themselves, because he believed himself to be the embodiment of what it was to be a Skrull. He believed it was his destiny to lead the Skrulls in transforming other worlds, which is basically who the Skrulls were in the comics and kind of how they were portrayed in Captain Marvel somewhat, but not in depth enough. But I think it's at least a good enough introduction to how we get there. Now, in the Secret Invasion comic, the Skrulls mutter the phrase, "He loves you," multiple times, and that's in reference to Klaben, their god. So if we do a group that's descendants of him, it makes sense. It's something that could be thrown into the mix. Now, to achieve his godlike powers, the leader of the deviants that spared him, her name is, I'm not even going to try to pronounce this, but it's capital S, I believe capital I, apostrophe, lowercase GUR apostrophe T. She was the leader of the deviants. She embraced Killbin's ideals as her truth, and it transformed both of them into gods. So that could be the whole basis of the Secret Invasion storyline. Now, his powers, before even achieving godhood, he was augmented by cosmic energy, making him long-lived and virtually indestructible. He had super strength, flight, could manipulate cosmic energy. Once he would achieve godhood, he could survive anywhere. He was virtually immortal, immune to poisons and disease, and could manipulate magical energies, which also is a nice twist given the characters we have in the MCU, like Scarlet Witch and Doctor Strange. And I just think that would be the best way to do it, because you have a way to slowly show Skrulls invading through, say, the next 2 or 3 movies, which in 3 to 5 years, you do another team-up movie, and it's the Secret Invasion storyline, and all of this can be flushed out in that time. I think that's a lot better than trying to force a character change in Scarlet Witch so soon after Endgame, which just doesn't seem right. I mean, yes, it could be just because the character's established, but it just seems sloppy. And that's...
So that's where you're going to take it? Alright, so before anything else is said, to give it a chance, because I actually don't know a whole lot. I got a question for each of you based on your explanations. I'm going to turn it to Chad, because I'll give you this chance. It's an extended universe, yes. You're continuing it right after the movie, but that also means you have to introduce the entire X-Men line, as you brought up the fact of Magneto and the entire mutant lineage, which is a bigger part of the Marvel Universe, but has no basis in the current MCU, even after it's been bought. I'll give you a chance. I'll give you a minute after he answers.
We're going to have a point when we argue the other person's...
Yeah, we will.
Okay.
I got you.
I'm just asking.
Yes.
All right.
You got a minute.
So I didn't say that the X-Men were going to introduce. I said they weren't the full X-Men yet, just because they were in this universe. They were just mutants. So in that universe, there's still like a reality that's going on that people have memories about. So there's going to be mutants in that reality that act as heroes. But the X-Men haven't been formed yet because it's a different universe. What was another question you had with that? Was that it?
It was basically more or less just based on the X-Men, because when you're saying that Magneto is going to be brought in, that just means that you have to establish the X-Men.
No.
Now, if you're bringing in Magneto and nobody knows anything about X-Men outside of the current movies that have been established, you have to have a way for people to be able to get into it. You don't need the X-Men for
Magneto. Magneto.
If you know anything about House of M, yes, you do. So
well, that's different. The mutants.
That's the storyline you're talking about.
And this is the MCU. And Civil War had nothing, really, barely anything to do with the comics. It was Age of Ultron.
They still caught the essence of Civil War.
All right.
You're completely bastardizing.
Guys, you both have your opinions. Okay, on to you. You're talking about how it's the God of Skrulls, Glaven. You mentioned how there would have to be multiple movies. The issue is the Secret Wars also held a big part of people who are already dead from Endgame. How are you going to move past that on top of introducing the God of Skrulls, which I feel like would need multiple movies?
Not to be a dick. Secret Invasion. But...
I'll get
I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Secret Wars is something completely
Secret
different.
Invasion.
And another debate I can have.
Okay.
But Secret Invasion, the thing about Secret Invasion, the Skrulls literally copied everybody. They had multiple Skrulls. They had Skrulls running around with the powers of Cyclops, Wolverine, and like Captain America all rolled into one. Like, Secret Invasion was so big, if you just throw in references to Skrulls in like movies that are made within the next few years, it could lead to something that ends up being a full Secret Invasion flushed out storyline. Okay. You don't need, it doesn't matter that there are characters that were involved in the story that are gone, because the Skrulls literally mimicked everyone. They mimicked Jarvis, Tony's butler. They mimicked everybody, top to bottom. So as long as you have that as the focal point, you can make that movie a whole lot more easily. than,
Okay.
say, his storyline.
Okay. So, we got the argument, the initial statements out of the way. No. Gonna give them both 5 minutes to try to get their arguments with one another out of the way. So, that was shitty. You got your 5 minutes starting right now.
Alright. So the problem is, you said you want to do yours as a quick 2-3 movie thing. The problem is they're already making the Eternals movie. And they haven't even shown anything of that. So that's going to be an Eternals movie coming out. Then we need to have the Deviants. We need to have them introduced too. Are they going to introduce them in the Eternals movie? They're going to be introduced in the second one or another movie. And the Eternals movie is going to be a prequel, so it's not even going to be showing up in the current MCU. Just like how they're making a Black Widow prequel movie and all that. Other thing is, wouldn't you rather have suspense built up of trying to guess which character is a Skrull in the movie instead of just having it rushed into one full movie? I want to have a couple movies of having these heroes interact and finding out that one of them might be a Skrull. I feel like that'd be a lot cooler than being oh, whoa, one of them's a Skrull right in the movie. And to go back on my defense thing, the MCU cherry picks plot points from a lot of different movies or comic books and puts them in a movie masterfully. So you saying that Magneto can't be in this just because we're not introducing the X-Men doesn't mean anything. I mentioned the multiverse, so characters from different multiverses are being brought into this reality and everything. So, and it changes that reality. But once everything gets back to normal, it's still different than what it was, because back in House of M, only 198 mutants or something like that were brought back, opposed to the thousands. So the MCU could start off with just that limited number of mutants, and the mutants could still feel the impact because all of them still have the memories of that alternate universe being there was thousands of us. We were the dominant race on the Earth. And to go more against that, we already saw the Skrulls once, and I feel like if we're going to show the Skrulls again, we got to wait for the Super Skrull. Because once Fantastic Four comes out, they're going to have Doctor Doom, and I feel like the Super Skrull will be the only villain that could go up against Fantastic Four. That would be awesome because he has all their powers in one body. And I feel like that would be the Skrull invasion we want. But with this,
You got a minute.
I just feel like the movies I've built, and plus we have the Scarlet Witch and Vision TV show coming out. So with that show, it's probably going to be 6 or 8 episodes. They could show the slow decline of Wanda and how her mind starts to slip with all the stuff I was talking about. And then they could lead it into a movie. Because all these shows are going to be leading into the movies. They have the Falcon and whatever show where he's going to probably be Captain America in that. And it's all going to lead into the next big Marvel movies. So having a movie based on the Skrulls and everything, and I forget his name, I apologize, wouldn't be a fast thing. Like I said, you need to build the drama for all the characters to see who the Skrull is. You need to build the Eternals up so people actually know who they are. You need to build up the Deviants and all that so people actually know why they're the bad guys. And if you try to rush it, like you're saying in 2-3 movies, there's going to be no character development, and they're all just going to be rushed. They're all going to be throwaway villains.
Or you done?
I'm done.
Okay.
So to correct you, I did not say 2 or 3 movies. I said 3 to 5 years. Those were my words. I never said 2 or 3 movies, and I never said to do Secret Invasion in 1 movie. So you just made up a whole bunch of facts that I never said. Now, to argue your point, House of M, which is one of the very first storylines, or the very first storyline I ever read, so it is probably my favorite, and I know way more about it than you. Wanda mutters the phrase, "No more mutants."
That's at the end.
No, that's at the beginning. She makes the House of M, well, yes, it's at the end, but she makes the House of M. Magneto is the ruler of the world. Mutants are the rulers of the world. You cannot do House of M unless you have mutants established. So you are just trying to force feed crap down people's throats just because you want to have it. Just because it's nice and easy. House of M happens because Wanda is heartbroken over the loss of her children, and she attacks the Avengers, and she's losing her mind, and she's in Genosha with Charles Xavier and Magneto, and Xavier is trying to heal her, and all the heroes show up to try to deal with it, and one by one they disappear, and then they wake up in the House of M world, and the only one who remembers is Logan. He has his full memories the way they should be, and that's the first time he has his memories, because in the House of M, every one of the heroes get what they want. So you cannot just do this movie just to do this fucking movie. There is a lot of fucking essence that has to be thrown into this movie. As a matter of fact, House of M should be a 2-part movie. I think it should begin with Wanda losing her mind and all that, and end with Logan waking up. The first movie end with Logan waking up in the House of M. And then the second movie being how they fix the House of M, which ends with No More Mutants, which is the decimation in the 198. But you cannot just force it just because you want it. Like, you are just going so roundabout and skipping so much of the meat of the story just to have the movie. It doesn't make any sense whatsoever. I don't need the 2 minutes.
Okay. So, I've heard both sides of the arguments again. I'm going to ask Mike this one. So, a larger portion of your argument kind of relies on what I said about needing the X-Men to be a part of the entire universe. As you're bringing up Logan, you're bringing up a large portion of people that are part of the X-Men. You need the X-Men to be...
is like 2/3 an X-Men event.
Okay. So you need the X-Men to be introduced. It can't just be thrown...
You can't do House of M without having mutants as a large portion of the story. It's not... You can't do that.
You also mentioned... both of you actually mentioned kids, which was a question I wanted to ask you. So Wanda has children. Those also have to be introduced for this to all continue to take place, yes?
Well, I mean, you could do it over the loss of Vision. I see where Chad gets that, but it's not right just because Vision's gone to just do that story. Like, that just... It seems like you're doing the story just because Vision's gone, and it's all an easy tie-in.
Okay. So, to go back to you. You had mentioned that you need more movies, so you're kind of agreeing with what Mike was saying over the course of a multitude of years, putting out
3
movies.
to 5.
A course of multiple years, going out with more movies. But you again brought up, the X-Men are a part of it. If you're looking at it from a specific standpoint of a moviegoer, you'd be confused just going into it, not watching any of the shows that are going to be put out on Disney Plus, and you're going to be confused if you don't have anything to rely on in terms of an idea. How do you solve that?
Well, Disney is basically being like, they already said all the TV shows are going to reflect upon the movies. Like, it's a given. They said that whatever happens in all these TV shows is going to impact the movies now.
But what if you don't have Disney Plus?
Oh, no.
Then that's just a problem people are going to have. That's why the price is only $6.99. So if you're a big enough fan for it, Disney's expecting you to pay for it. Like, this isn't me just bullshitting saying the TV show is going to affect it. They said literally the shows are going to affect the movies. So what better part to have a lot of character development and have all my story go on is having the TV show slowly show the decline of her mental state and show Vision, show her house with Agatha Harkins, whatever her name is, and having her...
First off, she was a real person, not even a spirit, just so you know.
All right.
I'll explain that later.
Yeah.
But basically...
Yeah. 15 seconds.
Lost my train of thought. Thanks. Mm-hmm. But basically, having the show and having the movies, it's going to show the character development we need. It's going to show Wanda's mental break, and it's going to lead into the movie. And I didn't say the movie could have to be one movie, because we can have the Avengers Disassembled, which I think should actually be the next movie, because Tony Stark's dead. Where are they going to get all the funding? But they could have Avengers Disassembled, then they could have House of M, which House of M means she brings the mutants.
You got 5 seconds.
And
you can't bring the mutants.
Stop. And basically, with the
finish it up,
bringing the mutants into the other thing, when she first changed reality, it was when she created all the mutants. Then at the end of it, it's when she said no more mutants because she was tired of all the thing, and that's why there was only so many mutants left.
All right. I'm gonna give a few seconds of my own opinion. I'm gonna let them both finish out what they need to say, and then we'll get to our very end of it. Chad is basing things on the show, basing things on more money that people have to go spend. In my opinion, it's going to suck because you have to spend more money to go see everything by having all of the shows put out. Is it good for Disney? Yes, because you know people are going to buy into it. Is it bad for the average moviegoer? Obviously, because you have to go buy a new thing. In terms of Mike, you're extending it over a really long period of time being all of these movies. Is it easier for people to digest? Absolutely. Has it already been introduced? Absolutely. But you got to remember, people are already getting kind of sort of burnt out on the Marvel theme of, hey, there's a new movie every year. Might want to take a break with it. That's just my opinion. I'm going to let you guys have your final statements. You're both going to have about 2 minutes for it. Who would like to start?
Go ahead, Jed.
Yes, you are.
All right.
2 minutes.
So at the original thing, you said you didn't want this to be a long, drawn-out thing. All the Thanos stuff was 10 years, and just like basically a short time is cutting that in half, and you expect to get all that character development, all that stuff, getting to know all these characters in just 5 years. When Marvel said they're going to put 1 to 2 movies out a year, so you're going to have pretty much 4 or 5 movies to do this. And I just think that the way Marvel does things, they don't just jump in like DC, where they're like, now you have the Justice League, even though we never introduced these characters. They're going to take their time. They're going to create the Eternals. They're going to get you to know them. They're going to do the Deviants. They're going to do all the other stuff. They're going to make you actually be afraid of the Skrulls coming down. Realize why they were the way they were and all that stuff. And I just don't think it could be done as well. I think it's going to take a lot of time. I think that's more of a slow build to get to that villain than it should be more of a ramped up thing.
30 seconds.
I feel like the Eternals is going to be the big next storyline. So with my thing, we need like a nice personal thing. We already know the character, and we just had the big epic that was Endgame and Infinity War. We should have a nice personal story right now to bring fans back in and not overwhelm them with another giant outing like we had with Endgame and stuff, which is what the Eternals will be.
I'm not going to argue your argument. I'm not going to argue your point. I'm going to argue your argument against my point. And I said 3 to 5 years. I never said so many movies. They could still do it, putting out 1 to 2 movies a year. All you need is Skrulls to pop up a couple times. Then, during the big event movie, you give the backstory on the God of Skrulls and why this group of Skrulls is doing what they're doing. And then you flush it out in this course of that movie. If you have to do a sequel, whatever. But you can still do it within 3 to 5 years without a shit ton of movies and burning people out. That's all I have to say. It's a lot easier to do than trying to force everything through those TV shows and everything just because you already have a character established. Because all you're going to do is give a cheap, bastardized edition of a story that should be great.
Alright. So, I got stuck in the middle of this.
So angry.
I feel daggers from both sides. Jesus Christ. Alright, this one's actually a little bit more difficult for me to decide on, as I actually haven't seen all of Endgame. I've seen bits and pieces. I've had things spoiled. So, what I'm going to boil it down to is a lot of which would I rather do as someone who has to go see either the series or the movies or a combination of the two. As someone who knows the backstories, I know a lot about Marvel. As someone who knows the backstories, I know a fair bit amount of the comics as well as the movies that have come through. There are a few movies I haven't seen, Endgame being one of them, Captain Marvel being another one, but I know enough about them to get myself through it. It's hard because you need the X-Men for Chad's argument to come through, and it's one of the big sticking points that I have. You can put whatever you'd like to put through in terms of the series, but I don't want to have to spend an extra $6 because, as I am, college kid, I'm fairly poor, can't afford it all the time. I can go to a $2 movie theater, see all the movies that I want. On your point, if they're all coming out one after another over the course of 3 to 5 years, it makes it harder for me to be able to sit and digest all of them and give myself a little bit more time to think. Even if I am someone who knows the backstory of them all, it's difficult for me to be able to say, hey, let's go and watch it, when I still haven't gotten over the fact that apparently Tony Stark uses the Infinity Gauntlet. I got spoiled down on Reddit. Thanks. So
it's a month after the movie came out. Stop
breathe.
crying. It's your own fault.
So, fact of the matter, I enjoyed both your arguments. They both had fairly decent points. I'm actually going to side, regrettably, with Mike. Shut your mouth. The reason is for the bigger aspect of... Thank you.
That's right. That's my victory music right there.
So
I just leveled up.
The reason that I'm saying that is because
I got 3 items.
I don't want to have to go and pay for Disney Plus. I don't want to have to go and get all of my information from a separate source. I actually want the X-Men to be fully introduced and fleshed out, and I want to be able to enjoy the X-Men being fleshed out, because Dark Phoenix coming out, it feels really choppy, and there's not a whole lot that gives me the ability to latch onto it. You did, however, win by a narrow margin due to the fact of it's hard to be able to put bits and pieces into movies. Yes, it's doable, but for the way that you want it to be done and how the current movie lays everything out for everyone, it's, for the average moviegoer, going to be difficult for them to look at it and be like, how is all of this happening without extra backstory being explained into it? You won, but I'm looking at it from the outside view.
See, my thing is, like, you just throw in, like, why is there, like, there's a Skrull. Why is there a Skrull here in this movie? And then it culminates into something. You don't have to give story. You just have to see the Skrulls and wonder why the fuck they're there and what the fuck they're doing.
I'd love to keep this conversation.
Oh, and by the way, Chad's reference points were poorly used and wrong.
Right. I know Logan was the one that had the memories, but
yeah, I get the hardness. Yeah, way off on that.
While they're fighting about all
this,
witch
trials, he came back as a fucking.
She's a real person.
Give me a second to talk.
Not a spirit.
Stop.
She's a real fucking person.
Stop.
We're gonna fact check.
Stop. This. Shut up.
I have fucking comic books.
Shut up.
Fact check
Shut
that
up.
bitch.
Shut up. Both of you. I'm not the only person who gets the chance to decide on any of this. You guys get to decide as well. Drop into the comments. Let us know what's going on. Hopefully I figure out how to get the iCard in that corner to work out. If I don't, sorry.
Whatever.
Go check out the link down below so you can go check out All for Gamers and all of their stuff that they've been putting out for the great Ner-D-Bate and let us know how we compared to it. I'm Chris.
I'm going to slap Chad in the nuts.
Just know that I got robbed by technicalities of Chris being a broke bastard.
And 2-0. And join us next time for the great Ner-D-Bate. Thanks, guys.